Welcome to this Killick Explains video. This time the topic is why do companies delist their shares? In other words, why go to the trouble of making your shares available on a public exchange or maybe several public exchanges only to remove them later? And a good case in point where I was making this video is Ryanair. In November 2021 they were mulling the benefits of remaining listed on no fewer than 3 large exchanges. So why do companies do it? Well, let's think about sources of capital first of all. As a company, you can grow organically using your own cash flows and stay away from the public eye and public markets. You can borrow, again, privately, and or you can approach venture capitalists and private equity firms, and all the while remaining slightly hidden away from the public eye, privately owned, growing under your own steam or using capital raised from private third parties. However, there does come a point where most companies that get beyond a certain size want to list. So why would that be? A quick reminder of some points I've covered elsewhere. First of all, listing gives you access to a much greater pool of capital. So it might simply be that you've suddenly got very large and need access to public capital. Also, having publicly traded shares gives you a currency to do takeover deals. So if you want to keep growing, suddenly you've got shares available to use, if you like, as collateral in deals. Thirdly, remuneration. Stock options and the like are built around the idea of having liquid, publicly tradable shares with a ready price. So that's another incentive. And fourthly, pure prestige. Listed companies tend to get more press coverage, tend to get more analyst coverage, and so on. However, all of that comes at a price, and that price can be what starts to put some companies off the idea of being listed at all. So let's think about that. First of all, the disclosure requirements. Now, as I make this video, COP26 is on, and that's added a whole new layer potentially of disclosures in the future for listed companies to do with sustainability, the environment, pollution standards, and so on, what's loosely known in the investment community as ESG, environmental, social and governance criteria. There are many, many more financial disclosures that listed companies have to make, and what's more, they have to make them on a more regular basis than privately owned firms. So that can put them off. Number 2 is the loss of control. You have external shareholders. They may not vote the way you want them to. You have to negotiate with them. You have to speak to them. You need to have decent investor relations, in other words. And that can become trying for some companies, having to answer to major stakeholders and shareholders. Thirdly, there's the cost and the pure hassle of having to comply with all of the requirements that come with being listed on a major exchange. And then fourthly, the likes of Ryanair, let's say, when I'm making this video, there's the issue of liquidity. Are enough people actually trading the shares that I've gone to the trouble of listing to make it worthwhile? And the London Stock Exchange has suffered a little bit here because, thanks to Brexit, is largely blamed. Some companies that have got shares listed here are finding that the liquidity is moving away to Europe and to other exchanges. So then you have to ask the question, if I'm listed simultaneously on, say, 3 different markets, New York, Europe and the UK, do I actually want to maintain all of those listings? Other companies will delist because they feel that, frankly, the scrutiny that comes with being publicly listed isn't worth it. They will prefer to be a little bit more private. And then, of course, there are the big private equity titans and private capital pools that come along and simply buy up shares, removing them, in the short term at least, from public markets. So there you have it. Reasons why companies might list. Fewer and fewer of them are actually doing it at the moment. Pools of liquidity are to be found off exchange in the private equity world, for example, and some firms have specific reasons to want to say goodbye to something that many years ago they might have craved. To find out more about share listings and trading in general, please go to my extensive library, killick.com/learn. And if you'd like a copy of my guide, which touches on some of the issues around listing and delisting, it's called How to Invest in Equities, and it's available if you ping me an email, editor@killick.com.